Hello and welcome to our prevention talk show where we talk about underage drinking, which is a serious public health problem in the United States. I'm your host, German Angel. Today we have in our studio Dr. Uribe, an international speaker, consultant, coach, author who is recognized for her expertise in values-based leadership. Her work has been published in 4 continents. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
It's
How you
my
like my
pleasure.
English?
I love your English.
It's so good. You know,
Absolutely,
it feels so
it's
strange.
perfect.
This is my first show in English language in which I'm so happy. We're starting today a new show called Prevention. And that's what I said before, is the underage drinking. And Betty, people are getting crazy. We don't know what to do when our kids are so young to start drinking. Kids 13, 12 years, 9 years starting drinking. And it's become a problem for all of us, for teachers, for parents, for family members. It's something that that it worries the whole society. And that's what we're going to start this show. And I know you have some experience with this situation, with the alcohol. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you for coming to our humble studio. And Betty, tell us about you, and let's go start this beautiful conversation.
Well, my father was an alcoholic, and growing up in Colombia, I had to see a lot of things that the kids shouldn't be seeing. And I remember growing up in Bogota, Colombia, and my father, who had a transportation company, and this is the thing, is alcohol doesn't discriminate based on class or ethnicity or anything. And my dad would come home and he would be drunk, and my mother would be at home. She was a homemaker, and he used to beat her up. One day, I woke up and my mother was next to me, and lo and behold, there was my dad almost killing my mom. And that's when we decided enough is enough and we had to leave. So he lost everything because of alcohol. He lost his family, he lost everything, everybody that he loved so much.
Can
and we
you
came
believe
to
that?
the United
You
States.
remember?
I do.
I mean, you remember seeing that scenes, him
Yes.
being drunk, coming home. Probably in the beginning, he was really nice and funny.
Absolutely, and that's how it is.
Yeah.
So they're very nice and they're funny, and he was the life of the party, and everybody loved him because he just was so vivacious and totally the life of the party. And then it was too much, and then he eventually died from liver malfunction.
How that affect you? How that affect you through all your life?
It affected me in a big way. Well, first of all, my entire life was uprooted at the age of 12 because of this. I think seeing my father do that with my mother created a wall around me in such a way that I grew up not trusting men. I grew up not trusting any authority figure because he was my authority figure. I grew up abhorring anything to do with alcohol. And then also I knew that because my father had an addictive personality, maybe I also had an addictive personality. And so it affected me and it affected my entire family. My oldest brother ended up with an addiction also.
Wow.
And that's another big story. Go ahead.
No, let's now that we're talking about Colombia.
Yeah.
In Colombia, it's so normal seeing people getting drunk. The famous aguardiente, water,
Yes.
fire water. That's what
Yes,
it's
fire
translated.
water, yes.
It's so normal to see people drinking in the stores, in
Yes.
the streets. And
Yes.
what do you think? What should we do so we can slow this down or stop this? Sometimes I'm kind of confused. Is because I have friends. They know how to drink. I mean, they have one drink, one glass of wine, and they are fine. But there's some people that they cannot control that drinking, and that's what's happening with our kids now these days. As you see in newspapers, in the magazines, and television, these parties in the universities, in those fraternity houses.
Yes.
You know, you see them, you see them on Facebook.
Yes.
You know, those parties.
You know,
mean,
I
they're-
was thinking about that because the kids, it is known that it's okay to drink, and I have 3 kids, and 2 of them, one of them still in college, and one of the things that I've talked to them about is social media, right? So as an employer, I'm an executive for a bank here in Orange County, California Bank and Trust, and as an employer, if I see that there's something going on in social media and someone is not going to take care of their own brand, then they wouldn't take care of the brand of the company. So I'm more apprehensive about hiring someone. And I don't think our kids realize that everything they do today can have ramifications for the future.
Yes, it is true.
And once you put something on social media, it's forever in electronic form, and it can be sent to whomever you want to, and then people can construct your own story. Isn't it better for us to construct our own story?
And I don't know why they relate alcohol with having fun.
They do.
Yeah,
And
now
also,
these days it's like
it begins with the feeling of belonging. If you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, belonging is one of the fundamental feelings and one of the fundamental needs that humankind has. And in order for them to feel like they belong, they may feel the peer pressure of having to drink or having to do some things that normally they would not want to do. But because they want to feel like they belong, they're part of something, then they begin by drinking.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they see that there are different things in their home that are not working out too well, and they find that they have one little sip, and maybe they can numb their minds, and maybe they don't feel as good, or they don't feel as bad because now they're drinking and they're having something in their head, and they don't realize that this is kind of an enticing thing. And you know, tell me a little bit about your experience. I understand that you
talking
also
about my
had.
experience. You know, you're right. All this starts at home.
Yeah.
Everything, you know, the alcohol issue, it starts at home
Yeah.
because it's legal, it's normal.
It's easy.
It's part of our cultures. You know, Italians, Germans, Colombians,
Yes.
Americans, we all have the alcohol in our home.
Yeah.
And so it's so easy access for a kid to grab it, have a sip, and then feel good, and then get that feeling of
Yes.
that you were like flying.
Like you're impotent, like you're omnipotent, right? Like you could do anything.
That's what
And that's-
happens to me. I started drinking when I was 14 years old, and I remember my first time because I got so sick. I mean, very sick. And my brother, my father, some friends, I don't remember what they were celebrating, but we were in in a living room, and they had the bottle right in,
Oh, yeah.
in a small table, and then they got distracted and they went away and they left the bottle there, and then I go, okay, let me try it, let me see how it feels. Sorry, so I grabbed, and that was aguardiente, and I think it was like this, you know, this.
And aguardiente,
And then,
fiery water, that's almost like a scotch, as strong as a scotch,
I mean,
right?
that's very strong.
It's very, very
Yeah.
strong. So for you at 14 to be drinking this much without having never drank before.
I went really far away
Wow.
from the ground.
Yes, of course you did.
I really went really. I laugh now, but
Yeah.
in those moments, I really feel bad because I got sick, and then the feeling of the ceiling moving.
Oh,
Then when I
yes.
went to try to sleep, my bed it was going around and around and around and around and around and around, and then I got to go to the bathroom, and then I went straight to the bathroom, and then I hugged that toilet that I hugged many times. After that, I hugged that toilet so many times because, you know, I got so sick and I threw up. I mean, I everything come out, and it was feeling bad. And then time went by, and then I tried it again with some friends, and discos and parties and things like that. And then I started liking it. And it got to the point that people say, "Oh, you dance really nice." I say, "Yeah, because I'm drinking." So I relate everything that when I was drinking, that I was the best dancer, I was the best lover, I was the nice cute kid, that I talk with my other friends, and then we start getting in trouble and things like that. But that's the beginning of my career as a drunk, no?
Yeah.
And it took many years. I quit drinking when I was 30 years old. So it's almost like, what, 15 years in drinking. So in those 15 years, I lost a lot of opportunities, a lot of, I got in really big trouble. I quit
Yes.
school when I was 16 years old. Oh, yeah, I got busted in school for being drunk. So the principal, the director of the school called my dad, and
Oh my goodness.
and then I got in so much trouble, and then I didn't want to feel going back to the school because
You
the
got a
whole school knew about
reputation.
my situation,
Then all
so
of
I
a
didn't
sudden
want
you
to
have
pay my
shame.
friends shame.
Yep.
And then I quit it, and then I started hanging out with friends on the streets, smoking pot,
Yep.
drinking beer, doing a little bit of drugs.
It's almost like a vicious cycle, isn't it? You feel really good. You want to feel like you belong. You want to feel like you are part of something. And then you start drinking and you start feeling really good. You feel like you're at an all-time high, and then you crumble down. Somebody finds out, there's a lot of shame, and then you want to cope with that shame. So you drink a little more,
Yes.
and then you feel like, well, wait a minute. And then you start feeling like you are not as good without the alcohol. So now you have that addiction happening, beginning to happen. And it's really all determined by your actual brain actually makes this happen, right?
Yes.
So the pieces of your brain that begin to connect, they begin to connect when you have the alcohol, and it feels really good, so you want to feel even better.
Yeah.
And then once you have all of the shame, then you start feeling like, okay, wait a minute, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
I might as well just continue to do it because I'm not good enough anyway. So
Yeah.
it's almost like a vicious cycle, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very difficult to live like that.
Yeah.
It comes to a time that you lose your friends, you start lying, you start making bad decisions,
Yes,
and you are in trouble.
you
and
are.
then when you see yourself in the mirror and you go, you know what I used to do? I look at the mirror and go, oh my God, what I doing to myself? I had all my, swollen
Yes.
face, red eyes. It smelled like alcohol because your body starts smelling like
Yes,
alcohol.
yes.
This is what I'm doing to myself. I want to quit. But the following few days later, no, I feel good, and then I start drinking again,
Yeah.
and it became a cycle, and it got to a point that I lost everything. You don't lose everything in a short period. You lose it like in a long term.
Yes.
It takes years,
Years,
to
yes.
to get in trouble.
Yeah, because I think there's a tolerance level. First, your family doesn't want to believe, and they are in denial. They don't want to believe that you have a drinking problem because now they're associating themselves with you. And well, what's wrong with us that he has a drinking problem?
No, they thought I was crazy.
Right?
Germán is crazy, that kid is crazy. But I wasn't crazy. I was dealing with an addiction, but back in those days, in the 70s, they didn't know that it was a disease. It was like we have now these days, and that's why we got this show. We got prevention because I would like to start sharing information. I would like to bring people like you. I want to bring more doctors, psychologists, and try to find out a way to deal with prevention. Because if we start with our kids, we might, from 10 kids, I would be happy if I can save just one kid.
Yes.
From 10 kids, if I
Absolutely.
save one kid, it will be good. So
Yes.
that's what I want this program, prevention, to have parents, teachers, sociologists, all kind of persons to talk openly about this, because
Yes.
there's a stigma behind
Yes.
alcohol. It's a stigma, and we don't talk about it.
We don't.
And we don't talk about
I
it.
get people In banking, there is
Yeah.
a lot of social activity that happens.
Yeah.
And many, many years ago, I remember one young lady that was at a meeting and she just felt really good, so she had one drink, and then she felt even better, and then she had another drink, and then pretty soon everybody, she went from being the most popular girl at this activity, at this
Yeah.
event, to starting to really take a dive, because you get really, really happy first, right? And then
Yeah.
you start going down, and then your body starts kind of taking effect, and then you want to kind of get rid of it. So you're going to get rid of it somehow. And this is what happened with her.
And you know, some companies, they do that. They throw parties, and then the boss goes to those parties and they kind of check who's drinking,
Yes.
who's in control.
Yep.
In that way, they identified the problem of the company, because when you drink too much, you're a problem.
You are.
Because you make decisions and you're always
Yes.
drunk, late.
Yes.
What else when you?
Well, you
I never
come-
work in
you-
the office. I never work in the office.
Well, you
but
come
you can
in
tell
late.
in the office, yes.
You're coming late, and you take extra long lunches. You
smell.
you smell. You lie.
Rude.
It's almost like you living a life of an imposter.
Yeah.
Because you have two personas. You have the drunk person, and then you have the person who is the professional
Yeah.
individual. And so you don't know, because you're having to cover up for your addiction, then you're working so hard that you lose focus on what you're trying to do, whether it's spending time with your family or the important things in your life, or being focused on your job. And so it affects every part of your life.
Yeah.
And then if you're married, that puts
Divorces,
a whole nother thing.
domestic violence.
Domestic violence,
Yeah.
because, you know, my father used to say, and I remember when I was little, my father used to say, I try to do the right thing. I try to always do the right thing, but I just can't. And somehow he felt helpless. He didn't know that, and he didn't have knowledge of organizations like Al-Anon, for example, that has such a great success rate of getting people away from alcohol.
But, I'm sorry, before you go,
Yes.
Can you explain to our audience what is Al-Anon?
Yes, it's Alcoholics Anonymous,
Yes.
and it's an organization that has been around for a long time. They have a 12-step process, and it's a proven method of taking a hard look at oneself, and really almost like you're putting yourself right there, and you're taking a hard look at yourself, exactly who you are, without putting any judgment, but just saying, this is where I am.
Yeah.
And so if you take a look at this 12-step process, it takes you through a process of first observing where you are, and then it continues toward, okay, now who am I touching and who am I hurting with this process, with what I'm doing, and getting real with the fact that, wait a minute, I don't have control over this. Because I don't have control over this, I have to reach to a higher being, somebody that can help me, that can actually help me, and then begin to tell truths about yourself and begin to really open up. And then eventually, toward the end, the most important step in my mind is the last step, and that's telling others about and helping others and paying it forward.
Look, you do it now.
And exactly.
Look, you do it now.
And it was one of my employees who had been clean from any alcohol addiction for 15 years, who I went to when a family member had an addiction, and I said, can you please do an intervention with my family? And he came and he had an intervention with my whole family, and that's when we started with what they call tough love, real tough love.
Yeah, get out of here.
Yes! But,
Go away, don't go back. Go, you don't exist in my life.
And I think the question is, and I
Yes.
talk about this even in business, the question is, when you have somebody that is an addict in your home and you are dealing with them, you need to really look at yourself. Is this about what's best for them, or is it about what's best for me? How am I going to react to this individual? Is it about them, or is it about me? If it's about me, I mean, let me just give you two examples.
Yeah.
One person is an addict, and alcoholic, and they are really trying really hard to stay clean. And then they call you and they say, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore. I need one drink. Can you please just give me one drink?
That sounds familiar.
At that moment, we have a decision to make. Am I going to give him the drink, or am I not going to give him the drink? And what goes through our mind is, what's most important? Is it how I'm viewed? Do I want them to like me, or do I want them to get better? Yeah. If I give them the drink, who's this about? This is about me.
Yeah.
If I say no, I will not, then it is about them. It's about how do we truly love someone so unconditionally that we're willing to give up everything in such a way that they would have the answer to their addiction.
Yeah, because alcohol is a problem. I was talking to the chief of police the other day here in the studio, and he was mentioned that most of the accidents on the highways are caused by teens drunk.
Yes,
They
absolutely.
drive, they don't have respect. How are we going to fix this problem? How are we going to do it? You guys have any idea how we can talk to our kids to stop drinking? Do you have any idea? You think we can do that? You can.
I think we can.
We had to do like a big campaign.
I think so.
And we can do one Saturday, a dry Saturday, and invite kids of finding another ways to enjoy life.
Yes.
I think that the problem is with the media too.
Yes.
Not this media. This is a community media, but we're talking about commercial media.
Yes.
Commercial media present those commercials when people in the beach having fun, all beautiful girls in bikini running around, coming to you. You with 2 beers like this, and just coming to you.
And the good-looking guy doing the same thing. And so no, you're
so
absolutely
kids,
right.
so kids watch that.
Yes.
And in the social media, and like you see on Facebook and Twitter, Snapchat, and all these social media, I see a lot of pictures of kids drinking, having fun, showing everybody, hey, I'm here, I'm here, there, and traveling with the beer.
Yes.
How are we going to do it?
I do some training and some leadership development training, and I've done some classes at USC and for the Global Latina Leadership Program at USC and for other programs at SC and other universities. And one of the things we talk about is be careful with your brand, and maybe just talking to the kids about, because they want to belong, right? The feeling of belonging is the one that probably draws them at first, because it's that peer pressure.
Yeah.
And I talk to them about who do you want to belong with, and what are the ramifications of the decision you're making today in your future. What do you want to be when you grow up? Do you really want to do this? And so showing some examples. I know for my children, what I did was I showed them the example of my brother.
Yeah.
And every time my brother would disappear because he was drinking too much or overdosing or doing whatever he was doing, I would say to my children, this is what it is. This is what you're going to have.
Show them examples.
Is this what you want?
Yeah.
Or a conversation about my father, and when my father used to come home drunk, and how I felt so little and so belittled, and do you really want to do this? And then do you want to take this on for generations to come? So I think having some role models and some people like you, fantastic role model, and look at what you've done with your life.
Yeah. It wasn't easy.
No, but
it wasn't easy, but I did it.
But you did it,
and
here you are making a difference in
Yeah.
the show for millions of people, millions of viewers, and so you're a perfect role model to be able to do this. Create programs, create opportunities for people to feel really good about what they're doing outside of the liquor space, outside of any drinking. Create activities. Yeah, I like the idea of a Saturday. Dry Saturday.
Dry Saturday.
Yeah.
Like that idea.
I like that.
Well, let's go do it.
Yeah.
We'll keep talking about these projects here, prevention show For me, it's a pleasure to be here today. First show when you
Yes,
and talk
thank you.
about this nightmare, because it is a
It is.
nightmare. I always, what can we do to at least figure out a way to teach those kids that they're already drinking, right? There are some kids they already
Yeah.
drinking, but teach them how to drink with moderation. You think it's possible to tell people to drink with moderation?
I think it is.
I know some people who drinks like that.
Absolutely. When I go to an event, I will cap it at 1 drink. And most of the time I drink water or juice. And did you know that there are studies that have been done that when you go to a social event, those people who drink water or soda water are viewed as being more intelligent than
Really?
those who have a drink. Did you know that?
No, but I'm going to start looking.
There you go. There you go. So maybe telling people some of those statistics
Yes.
and showing up in the media and having a media campaign where, hey, you know, the Just Say No campaign, maybe it's drink in moderation campaign, or keep it to 1. Keep it to 1 or only 1 campaign so that they can drink in moderation. But I think it really begins at home.
Everything starts at home.
Everything
and
starts at
school.
home.
So basically, we
Yes.
got to do as teachers, educators, and parents,
Yes.
and work with them.
Yes.
Well, it takes the kid too. So it takes
Yes.
it takes 3 people:
Yes.
teachers, educator,
Yes.
teachers, parents, and the kid to
Yes.
talk about this.
Absolutely.
Talking openly.
Yes.
Open.
And it's the openly piece that is missing. I think that as a society, we tend to put things under the rug that don't look appealing.
Yeah.
And if a parent feels like a child needs some prevention, the parent may say, oh no, I'm going to respect their privacy. Well, when my girls were growing up, I had their secret codes, I still do, to their social media.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. And I told them, as long as you're living under my roof, I have the right to go and look at everything that you have in your home. It's very simple. And so there were
So
no
you're talking
sacred
about having
cows.
control
No, it's
and
not.
a little bit of love. Right?
It's a lot
Because
of
that's
love.
control,
and-
no?
well,
Know
it's
that
co-
everybody's secret passwords. You got control of that.
You know what's interesting
Yeah.
is I never looked into their social media.
But you know the
I didn't
password.
have to. I knew the password, but I never had to look into their social media.
Because they don't give you that wonder if they are doing
Yeah.
good or not. Because you can tell when a kid is behaving bad.
You can. You
It's
can.
easier.
If you pay attention, if you slow it down enough, you begin to pay attention to the patterns. We're all creatures of pattern,
Yeah.
right? Creatures of habit. And so when the child comes, they come home, they put their bag in one place, they go turn on the television, and they get on social media or they get on the phone. And pretty soon you see the pattern, and then all of a sudden you see, they did something different. Pay attention.
Yeah.
As a parent, we have to pay attention to those patterns, because if we're not watching astutely at what those patterns look like in the change in the patterns, it could mean that my child is not being heard or isn't feeling heard, or something happened, they're being bullied at school, or so many different things that can be happening with a child. But it's up to us to really slow things way down and to really observe the patterns of behavior. And that's where we know if something is going on, or we can check in with them and teach them that it's okay to tell you the truth. As long as they tell you the truth, they're not going to get in trouble. Then they have somewhere to go. I want to be the first phone call. I don't know about you, but I want to be that first phone call.
Yeah, I remember one time when my son was 17, I told him, if you drink, I will kill you.
Okay, I guess that would be one drastic measure.
You too. If you ever get bad grades, I will kill you. No, I'm not just kidding. I'm kidding. But I talk to him. Having a conversation with your
Yeah.
kids is so important
It
to
is.
find out how they doing. Are they getting
Yes.
good grades? Are they smoking or drinking? It's good to know, to be next to them.
And the other thing is, my mother used to say, tell me who you're with and I'll tell you who you are.
Yes, that's true.
So as a parent, it's our responsibility to know who our children are hanging out with, especially when they're younger,
Yeah.
when they're not of driving age, and somebody comes to pick them up. How many times did I hold parties at my house where the parents would just drop them off without me meeting them? I would not allow any child to be at my house without me meeting their parent. I want to know,
Yeah.
what are your values? What do you value
Yeah, you're
most
trying
in
to
your
figure
home?
out who's
And
who.
I want to know who my child is hanging out with, what's their address, what's their phone number, and how late are they going to be there, and then I can just drop in anytime if I wanted to. Did I? Rarely. But I knew, and they knew that I knew, and so maybe that extra measure of precaution
Yeah.
and really understanding who your children are hanging around with. Are we taking the time to talk to the other parents? Are we taking the time to get the phone number of the other parents, their address, everything?
Yes.
So when the kids would come, give me your name,
Yeah.
give me your parents' name, give me your phone number, their parents' phone number, and their email address. And once I have their phone number, then they know who I'm going to call if there's an issue.
Yeah.
So it's that perceived control. Maybe it's not control, but it's the perception of, uh-oh, she knows my father's
Yeah.
information. She knows my mother's information.
But that age, the one we're talking about, is so difficult. It's really difficult. I mean, I wish I can go and touch each kid and let them know that alcohol is bad. But I don't know if they will listen to me. So that I will have. I haven't tried yet. Today's my first day. And we started with you.
Yes.
And this project, I think it's going to be for a long time. My plans are to stop by high schools, bring the TV cameras, have a host there, talk to them, and give them free shirts, free stuff, and trying to let them know about the stigma behind alcohol, and they can change their lives. They can, or before they start drinking.
I was thinking the same thing. When you really want prevention, I have a girlfriend that is really focusing on education, but she's focusing on the kids that are in grade school. She's not focusing on the high schoolers. I'm focusing on the high schoolers for scholarships. And she made me really rethink, and I've been really thinking about this. If we really want to prevent 4 generations, we have to catch them when it's early enough, when they haven't started, so that we can educate them before they started. And I think, at least for my children and for the people I know whose children are not alcoholics or don't have issues, I think the education began when the children were younger with their parents. So we teach the parents, how do you talk to the children about the decisions you're going to make. If you choose to drink, what are the ramifications of your drinking? But starting all of this at a very young age.
But what about the families that like to drink? It's more difficult for
It
a
is.
parent or for a family who are by culture, they like to have a glass of wine and dinner table. How these people can tell their kids not to drink if they're drinking?
Yeah.
So that's the challenge that we have now these days.
Well, I think that we need to just take a firm step
Yes.
and become the parents that we're supposed to be. Our job is not to be best friends with our children. Our job is to be their parent.
And this is everybody's problem.
It is.
And this is everybody's problem.
Because it touches the entire community. It doesn't just touch the child and the parent, it touches the brothers, the sisters, the cousins, the friends. It touches an entire community. It's a big issue. And I really commend you for doing this work. I
Well-
commend you for putting yourself out there. You're putting yourself out there, and you're going out into the community, and you're trying to educate the parents, educate the children, and really making an impact. And I firmly believe that what you're up to is something huge.
Next show, we have a principal for the high school here in the studio, and we're going to talk to a principal what he thinks about this issue that we are talking about. We're going to try to find ways to entertain our kids and to show them a different way of enjoyment, not just drinking. There's a lot of stuff we can enjoy. Dr. Betty, there's anything else you would like to say to me today before we go? I want to thank you, all of you, for watching us. I want to thank our friends that are there in the control room, making possible you guys can see us. There's anything you want to say?
Well, I would like to just say I'm very grateful for people like you in this world. I think too many times we have individuals who say, I got mine, and it's okay because I'm already where I need to be, but you're really taking the driver's seat in taking this back into the community. And I would urge the business people that are actually watching this show to join arms and to lock arms with you and to support this wonderful cause, because I think children are the messengers we send to a time we will never see. I always say that.
Yeah.
And when we're long gone, generations after us, what are the children going to say about us? And what is the legacy that we have behind, that we're leaving behind? You have a beautiful legacy, and I commend you for it.
Thank you, Doctor. That's
Thank you
really
so
nice to hear those things from you. Well, guys, it's time to go home. And remember, you don't need to drink to have fun. See you guys next week.